So folks, welcome to Isha Training Solutions. This is Kumar Gupta here. Today we're going to discuss a little bit about Perfmon, or popularly called as performance monitor, or popularly called as Perfmon. Okay. Well, what is this? Okay. So this is a free tool. Okay, this is a free monitoring tool, okay, and mainly used for Windows OS. Okay, let's assume my desktop with which I am recording now. Let's assume that the Windows on which I'm recording this video, it's a Windows machine, and let's assume this Windows machine is a server. So this Windows machine, since Windows is installed in it, a Perfmon automatically comes with this. You need not have to install it. As you can see here, performance monitor, it automatically comes with it. So it's a free tool, a small tool which will help you to monitor the stuff. So the beauty about this Perfmon is let's say the servers are elsewhere, okay, and those are Windows server, you will be able to connect to those servers from here and will be able to monitor it. Okay, so in our three-tier architecture, let me open my slide. So there you go. This is your standard three-tier architecture, and this is the client machine on which, let's assume, the Perfmon is installed. Okay, let's say this is a Windows machine, and out of these three servers, let's say my app server is on Windows. Okay, so I'll be able to monitor this Windows server from the Perfmon which is installed on this client. Well, if this is a Windows machine, a Perfmon will be installed on this as well. So you can log into this app server, and using the Perfmon you will be able to monitor from the Perfmon which is installed on this machine as well. But the problem is, if it's a real app server, the infrastructure team will not give access for you to log into this machine and invoke the Perfmon. So what you would do is, this is your client machine wherein you are working on this. Perfmon is installed if this is a Windows machine. So the Perfmon which is there on this, using that you will be able to monitor the stuff which is there on this machine, which is of no use. But the most important thing is the Perfmon which is there on this machine, you will be able to connect to this machine and you will be able to monitor this machine using the Perfmon which is installed on that. So that's the beauty of the Perfmon. Okay, so Perfmon is a free tool, that's why it's popular. Okay, and it is used for the monitoring purpose. So now that you have understood why a Perfmon is used, now let's go ahead and see how to use this. It's not a rocket science, it's very, very simple. Okay, so as you can click here, as you can see the monitor tools, you click on here, automatically the monitoring is happening, as you can see, and you can see the percentage processor time is being monitored of this local machine. 3PC is my machine, so for this local machine I am monitoring the stuff. Okay, if it was a real-time project, there is no point monitoring your system, you would be monitoring the servers. So anyway, so this is what it is. And this is the live, it is monitoring, okay, which means that you will not be able to capture the data for this, so that you wanted to look it at the later point of view, you will not be able to store it using this performance monitor here. But you will be able to see as the things are going on, you will be able to see the live data or the live graph. But in case you wanted to store this data, so that you wanted to see this at the later point of time, or you wanted to send this information to your developer or the manager, you need to save this data and create the graphs and send it to them, so that you can see it to yourself at the later point of time, or you send it to someone else, like a developer or a network engineer or a database admin. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to collect this information or how to store this information. Okay, so for now, for the demonstration purposes, since I don't have a real server, I'll not be able to connect to it. I'll be able to show it on the local host, which is the client machine itself. So the process is similar. Okay, just that you connect to the server, that's the only difference, but everything else is same. So I'm going to show you how to collect this information and store it so that you can send it to someone else for this local host machine or the machine on which you are watching. Okay, so for storing that information, go to data collector sets, watch carefully, and then you are defining the data set. So you go to user define, and here I have already defined some of them, so I'm not going to use any of them. I'll be creating a new one. So user defined, right click on it and you say new, and you create a new data collector set. You're collecting the data. Now you say create manually and give anything. So let's say this is for the load test. Okay, I'm going to say load test, click on next, and what kind of data I wanted to collect. I wanted to collect performance counters. This is usually the line of interest of the performance testers is to collect the performance counter. So that's what I'm saying here, and click on next. And this is the root directory, the standard directory. I'll leave as it is. Okay, I'm not going to change the directory. If you wanted to point it to your desktop, you can select the desktop, okay, or select any other folder that you wanted. Okay, so but I'll leave as it is. Okay, the standard folder path, and say next. Okay, save and close. Click on finish. You see the load test is over here. This is the one which is the data collector set that I have defined now. So we are not done yet. Okay, once you click, okay, so you click on the user defined, you will be able to see all of them: load test, peak test, PT, and test. These are the 4 data collector set, user defined data collector set that I have created. The same list you will be able to see it over here, but now I wanted to concentrate on this load test. Just click on that and you see the data collector set is already created. Okay, so we are not done yet. We have to configure certain things. So now what you have to do as a performance tester to collect the information is you double click on that, and here you will add what all the counters that you wanted to collect. Okay, usually any performance tester, they collect information. They wanted to monitor the CPU utilization, the memory utilization, and the disk utilization. Okay, so the corresponding counters, okay, I'm going to write it down for you right here. For the CPU utilization, the counter is the percentile hang on just 1 minute. Percentage processor time, yes. So it's percentage okay. So what are these 3 counters like? We have to, as a performance tester, we have to usually any performance tester has to monitor 3 counters or 3 things. One is the CPU utilization, one is memory utilization, and one is disk utilization. For the CPU utilization, the counter is percentage processor time. For memory utilization, the counter is percentage private bytes. Is it just bytes or percentage private bytes? So let me look into this. Well, let's look at the counter. As a performance tester, as I've told you, the 3 things that you would want to monitor. One is the CPU utilization, one is the memory utilization, and one is the disk utilization. For them, there are certain counters. Let's look at the counters. For the CPU utilization, you wanted to look at a counter called percentage processor time, which is there in the object called processor. And for the memory utilization, you have to look at the counter called private bytes, again, which is there in the object called process. And for the disk utilization, you have to look at the counter called percentage disk time, which is there in the object physical disk. So now we have to add these counters over here. We have to add this counter over here. How did we get this window? Data collector 01 properties. I'm going to show that to you again. So this is the load test user defined data collector set you have created. On that, once you click on that, you'll be able to see the data collector set, and here once you right click on it and you say properties, you'll be able to see this window wherein you will be able to add the counters. So the first counter you would want to add is percentage processor time. Don't worry, just click on add, and as I've told you, this counter is there in the object called processor. As you can see here, the processor. Click on the processor, and these are all the counters which are there in the object called processor. I wanted to look at the percentage processor time, and make sure you're looking at the total, not for a particular instance like 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, mine has 4 core. Okay, so you would be able to monitor on the core wise, but as a performance tester, you wanted to monitor for all the cores. So this is the first object. Now I'm going to go ahead and add it, percentage processor time. So I have now, as it collects the information for this counter, what you're doing, you're monitoring the CPU utilization. Now I'll be doing the memory utilization. For the memory utilization, the counter is private bytes, so which is there in the object called process. So I can click on the process, and you see, as you proceed further, you'll be able to see the private bytes over here. So this is the memory utilization, and you see, you can look at for the total or for a particular process. Right now on my desktop, so many processes are running. So if this was an app server, then basically your application process would be running as well. So you would be able to monitor only for that, okay, only for that particular process. Okay, so right now, you know, I'll go ahead and monitor it for all the process, but typically, like, you know, you wanted to select that process for which you wanted to monitor, and you would go ahead and add it. Now I'm monitoring for all of them. And finally, for the disk utilization, you just have to monitor the counter called percentage disk time. So this is there in the object called physical disk. So let me go back to that object. Okay, here is the object. So I need to search for the physical disk object. Yeah, this is where the physical disk is. Just click on that, and you'll be able to look at the counters of all the counters under this object. So I wanted to monitor the percentage disk time. Okay, so just go ahead and add it. Now this one is the disk utilization, memory utilization, and CPU utilization. Now go ahead and add it. You will be monitoring all these counters. Okay, as you're monitoring or collecting the information for all these counters, you're monitoring the server. Okay, so right now all these counters will be collected for the local host. Okay, for the local host, but typically in the real-time projects, it will be something else. Okay, so if it has to be something else, okay, let's say yes, server is somewhere else and you wanted to add the counters for that, you just say click on add, and typically, you know, if it was a real-time setup, all the servers will show up over here. Okay, if not, just click on the browse here, and here click on the server name for which you wanted to monitor. Every server will have a server name or the IP address. Just enter the server name and or the machine name, and click on OK. As soon as you enter the machine name, this will be enabled. Let's say there's a machine called 192.168.1.6. Okay, so you see, once you enter, you click on OK, it will ask you to give the username and password for this machine. But since this is not a real machine, I don't have username and password, I'll not be able to give it. But if it was a real machine, you just give a domain of it and then the username and the password, then you will be able to connect to that machine. And once you are able to connect to that machine will show up over here, and you select that machine and you will be able to add the counters for that machine for whichever you wanted to monitor. Okay, now I'm monitoring for the local host. How do I know? You can clearly see it is a local computer as I'm adding over here. Now, the output file that gets generated. How do you want the output file to be? Do you want it to be a binary or a tab separated or comma separated? You wanted it to be a comma separated. One thing is you can open it in an Excel sheet and see. Second thing is the data that you are monitoring, you will be able to import into your analysis file. That is a very, very important. So whatever you have monitored, whatever the data that you collect, eventually what you wanted to do is you wanted to import that into an analysis file so that you will be able to create the report and send it across to the developer or whoever it is. So you go with the comma separated. And sample intervals you can give anything. So if I say 5, for every 5 seconds it will be collecting the information. So right now I'm going to go ahead and give 2 seconds, or probably 1 second is good enough. Okay, so now if you wanted to define any maximum samples that you wanted to collect, you can say, probably if you said 1000 samples, it will collect for every second, it will be collecting a sample. So after 1000 seconds, it will not collect anymore. Okay, so if you wanted to give anything, you can give, but I'm not going to give anything right now. Okay, so right now it is a comma separated. Now next thing is, yes, you wanted it to be a comma separated, but these days a very, very important interview question the people are asking. By default, what is the log format in Perfmon? By default, the log format is binary. By default, it is binary. And if it is binary, the file that will be generated is a .blg file. Okay, if by default it will be a binary, and if you are going with the default, the output file that will be generated is a .blg file. Very, very important. Remember this. By default, what is the file that will be created? .blg file. Okay, by default it will be a .blg file, which you will not be able to do much with that as a performance tester. That is the reason why I wanted you to convert to a comma separated field. Now if you go to the file, automatically the output file that will be generated is a .csv file. Okay, comma separated value. So .csv file. Okay, if it is by default, it will be binary, and the output file will be blg. But you don't want it to be a BLG file, you want it to be a CSV file. So you select this as a comma separated file. Okay, and any given file name you can give. I'll give this as, let's say I'm doing it for the load test, so I'll give it as a peak load test. I'm collecting this information for the peak load, so I'll say peak load test, and I'm running this test on 09/28. Okay, file format, you just leave it as it is, it's not much important. Okay, you can go ahead and select some other format that you wanted, but I would recommend you to leave as it is by default. Now that you have done all the setup that is required, just go ahead and click on apply and click on OK. Okay, so now typically what happens is you're supposed to start the load test. So let me go ahead and run the load test. So let's say this is my scenario. So let me change this scenario to a little bit wherein it's reasonable. So let's say that is 5. Okay, for book flight it is 5, cancel flight is 5, register user is 5. So let's say that's my scenario. Okay, so let me go ahead and start the scenario now. So I'm going to overwrite the results. So I've just disabled all this. So I'll go ahead and manually, okay, since I've disabled it, it's not running. So let me start the scenario again. Yeah, it's not working. I think I have to enable it. Just now I've disabled it. Enable it. Okay, so let me go ahead and start the scenario now. So automatically it starts running now. Okay, so now the test is running. So as the test is running, yes, Vugen will do its own monitoring like hits per second throughput and all that, but it's not able to do the server monitoring. Let's assume server monitoring, you're doing it in the Perfmon right now. You see the Perfmon. Okay, now you see the test has started. So ideally before starting of the test, so let me stop the test. Okay, hang on guys. So before you start this test, you have to start monitoring. So you see, this is the load test is what you have created. Okay, yes, comma separated. Now you start monitoring. How can you start monitoring? Click on this and you say start monitoring. Now you see a run button over here. Now the data is getting collected. Data is getting collected. I'm going to go start the scenario just a while back, just a little later. So I'm going to go start the scenario. Okay, so you see now the data is getting collected. The data is getting collected by this Perfmon, and where it is right now, it is there in the C perflog admin load test, and this is there in this folder, and you see the file that is getting created is peakloadtest0928.csv, because that's the file that you have, that's the file name that you have given. Where did you given? In the properties, you have given that file name. You have given that file name, and it's a .csv file because you said you wanted a comma separator. Okay, so let's gonna go look at this file, but before looking at this file and looking at what it is getting collected and all that, let me start the scenario. Okay, so now my scenario has started. Okay, the test is being run. The things like, you know, hits per second, throughput, errors per second, all that will be collected by the analysis itself. But the server monitoring is happening in the Perfmon. The server monitoring is happening in the Perfmon. Okay, so let the test run for some time. Okay, so that you have something to look at. Meanwhile, let's go look at this file as to how the information is getting collected and what is the information that is getting collected. Before I go ahead and look at this file, okay, first, what is that I wanted to collect? I wanted to collect the disk time, private bytes, processor time. Processor time is CPU utilization, private bytes is memory utilization, percentage disk is disk utilization. Okay, wonderful guys. So let me go to this folder. Okay, let me go to that folder. So it is there in the C folder, perf logs, admin load test, C, and then here you see peak load test 0928.csv. Okay, double click on it. Since the Perfmon is already accessing it, the Perfmon, the Perfmon is already accessing this file and putting some information on the file. You will be able to see this file in the read only. Okay, so since this Excel sheet is already used by Perfmon, this Excel sheet is already being used by Perfmon, you will not be able to see the full version. All you will be able to do is you will open it in the read only. Just click on read only. Okay, now you see this is the timestamp. Okay, started collecting it from 2:25:34 p.m. Right now is what? 2:28 p.m. Okay, so the last data item that you will be able to see is 2:28. The last data item that you will be able to see is 2:28:12. So in at what intervals it will be collecting, you have defined that you wanted it in the properties. You said that for every 1 second you wanted to collect the information, which means that after every 1 second there is a line item that will be added. Okay, now if I close it and open it again, okay, right now the last point that you see is 9:28 at, okay, hang on guys. Okay, so let me go to the last data line. As you see right now, note the timestamp 2:29:05 p.m. 2:29:05 p.m. There will be one more item that will, and one more entry that will be added at 2:29:06. This is the seconds. Okay, 061, 07, 08, 09. So right now it is a read only, and it is, as you are looking at it, it is getting updated, and as it is updated, you will not be able to see it. If you wanted to look at the updates, you have to close it and open it again. You have to close it and open it again. Okay, the last entry in the earlier when I opened was 05. Okay, now if you go back and see, it will be something else. You see 45. Okay, so before that 44. Okay, because for every 1 second you are capturing the data, so one entry will be there for every second. Okay, so, and as you are looking at it, this Excel sheet has been updated, but you will not be able to look at those updates live. You have to close it and open it so that you will be able to see the updates. So this is what is about the timestamp. Now this is the private bytes. At this time, this is what the private byte was. At this time, this is what the private byte was. So for every second, it will tell you what is the private bytes. Private bytes is the memory utilization. It will tell you the percentage processor time. So it's see at 2:25 p.m. at 35 seconds, the percentage processor time is 7%, close to 7%. After 1 second later, it became 10%. After 1 second later, it became 2.5%. After 1 second later, it has become 16.5. So for every second, it is capturing the processor time. Okay, so it is supposed to capture one more thing, which is the disk utilization. I'm surprised, it's not there, but typically it will monitor that as well. So for whatever the reason, I think it is missing. So let me go back and see what I have configured for. Yes, it is supposed to capture the disk utilization as well. Maybe there is a small glitch which could be there, because of which it is not showing. Let me open it again. Usually it doesn't happen. It usually whatever you wanted it will monitor, but this time around it monitored only 2 counters, even though you said 2, 3, but typically it will monitor all of them. Okay. Now you see the file is getting created, right? And .csv file, and since you given in the .csv file, you will be able to open it in the Excel. You will be able to open it in the Excel. Okay. So let me stop the test. Let me stop the test. Now, once the test has been stopped, you create the analysis file for this test. Okay. Along with that, once you send the report for those analysis file, along with that, you will be able to send the report for. You will be able to send this report for the data, the server utilization which you have collected. Okay. The server utilization. Let's go to the C file. Where is that? In the perf logs, admin, load test. So along with that analysis file that you have sent, okay. First of all, let's stop monitoring because our test is done. So let's stop the monitoring here as well. Once you have stopped monitoring, now you will be able to open the Excel sheet in the normal format, not just the read only. Okay. So you see, as the test is going on, this is what is the server, how it has behaved. Okay. So if you wanted to send this data to somebody, they will not be able to understand. So usually you would want to send it in the form of a graph. So if you are good with Excels, you select the data, okay, and then create the graph for that. Let me select all the data. Let's select the data, and you can say formula, insert, table, pictures, let's say lines, okay, and let's select that graph. Okay, so you see both of them, you're charting on the same graph. Let me chart it on 2 different graphs. So let me delete that one. So for this one, I'll be selecting one graph. This is one graph. So just say insert 1. Okay, so that's what is your processor total. So that's what is your memory that has behaved around that time. And with the time and CPU utilization, you can chart one more graph. And once you send the analysis, with the analysis report, you can attach these 2 graphs and send it to them and say that this is how your server has behaved. Or another option is you can import this data into the analysis file and you can do it using that. So I hope you have enjoyed this and you have now you understood how to use the Perfmon, the importance of using the Perfmon and all that. Thank you guys. Keep watching this channel. You can subscribe to the channel over here at the bottom, and you can purchase my videos, these recorded videos, or enroll to my live sessions using the link which is available at the bottom, or you can just WhatsApp me on this number if you are interested. Don't worry about registering and all that. You just call me on this number or WhatsApp me on this number. Okay, if you are elsewhere out of India, you can this is my WhatsApp number as well. You can make a WhatsApp call or you can WhatsApp message to me. If you are in India, obviously this is my working number. You can call me in case if you want to enroll into my sessions and all of that. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed this video and it is helpful for you. Have a great day.